Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, January 9th meeting of the Chappaqua Central School District Board of Education. We've been in exec session since 6:35 discussing legal issues with our attorney. Do I have a motion to bring us to public session at 7:37?
I move to open the public session.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Jen Shepherdson?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, I hope everyone had a great break between in December and had great New Year's, and is looking forward to continuing the school year. Regarding President's report, I'd like to thank Christine Ackerman and the administration for working through the apparent threat that we had a week and a half ago, or that we found out this week, that was a week and a half ago. Thank you very much for working with the Newcastle Police Department and trying to make sure that communications were done correctly and that our students and faculty and community were safe. The second thing on the President's report is, I know at the I think it was the last meeting in December, we were talking about budget and bond and where monies were being spent and being accounted for. So I'm going to ask John to take us, we put that on the website, in case people haven't seen it on the website. Ask John to take us through that now.
Sure.
And go through the budget process or the bond process and where money is being spent and where we are from a budgetary position with that.
Right. So this was on December 11th. A message was sent out, and this is also on the district website. Where you can find it is under district and under departments and then under public information. And then you will see the news under, it's listed as December 11th. So the first part of this, you can see it, we have some pictures. We talk about all the projects and then the completion dates, expected completion dates. And I think, Warren, you asked me to talk about the financial part, is that, there are several questions that were raised. So has the plan changed? We haven't changed any plans except for the two fields. Originally, we're going to build an artificial field at the Bell, the side field, and then we're going to renovate the C field. But that was flipped because our engineer, we had discussion, and then we had a proposition, and then the voters approved the switched. So that's the only change that we have. As far as the finance is concerned, we have borrowed the voters approved $42.5 million bond, and we borrowed in two tranches. The first one was $16 million. And the second one was 26.5. We have borrowed both. And so far, we are under budget, but we have two pieces that we have not we have not come to the final numbers. One is that one piece that we originally bid it out, and then fortunately we didn't have a GC, so that piece is held back. This is the auditorium lobby, and we need to wait on that because we may have some other changes. At this point we don't know, so that piece is set aside. And then there are a lot of pieces that were not in the bidding package, but we have approval from SCD. So we are using our own contractors that they have time and labor contract with us to do that. So that piece is not all together yet because right now our concentration is on the big projects. So we have smaller projects. For example, I'll give you the one that you probably all know. If you drive by Seven Bridges, you see the walls, the brick wall is falling apart. So that is part of the bond, but we haven't secured the construction for that part yet. So there are pieces like that, and therefore, at this point, I cannot tell you exactly how, the final number is going to be. And then also, we still have construction going on, and the L lower building hasn't even started yet. And as you know, when we are under construction, we always have change orders. And also, a lot of furniture pieces have not been purchased. So, but I can tell you that we definitely will come under $42.5 million. Any other questions? As far as the financing part, we definitely will hold to our commitment to the community that we will, later on when you see the budget, you will see there's one slide we actually prepare to address that piece. So definitely would not increase the levy because of the bond. Yes.
So I have a question. So if we come under budget, what's our obligation in use of those funds from the borrowing?
Okay,
What?
so what if, the leftover money?
Yeah.
Okay, if we have leftover money, that will be kept in the capital reserve funds. So that'll be part of the reserve, because we already borrowed the money.
Right.
And
I
we
mean,
really,
and I know there are legal
I'll just tell you,
restrictions to how we use it.
really have to borrow the money. The reason is because as interest rate was going up, if you don't borrow, then the cost will keep
Oh,
going
no,
up.
I'm not questioning that. I'm just wondering what's our legal obligation, because it's a voter-approved borrowing for a specific purpose. So I was just wondering what our legal obligation is regarding the leftover funds
So,
when we come
right.
in under budget.
So that will
that's my
be
question.
kept in the capital reserves, and if we have any capital projects in the future, then those monies can be used.
Okay.
Can we use without a public vote?
The projects, most of the time, will require approval from the voters.
Right, it would be on the ballot, like when we had to change the field thing. We would have to do something similar.
But not specifically for using those money,
the
but rather the
cafeteria.
project itself,
Okay.
and then the funding part. For
Right,
example,
the project
let's say
itself.
10 years from now, there's a project coming up that we need $10 million. And we'll go to the voters and say, this project is, let's say, $10 million, and let the voters approve. And then if let's say we have $500,000 left over, or $1 million, or whatever the amount, you subtract out, have voters approved to borrowing of that amount.
So the project would be proposed and approved, and then the finances would be proposed and approved separately.
No, it's in one package.
But it's
Because
really two packages.
Because you remember 2 years ago when the 42.5, we proposed a lot of projects.
Right.
And then we say the total amount is 42.5. So the voters approve to allow the school board to approve, ultimately because the school board approved it later on, to borrow up to $42.5 million to complete those
those
projects.
So to clarify, you said if we had a project for $10 million, we would say the project is $10 million, however, we're only going to ask for 9.5, we're going to
Right.
borrow 9.5
That's right.
because we have 5 million.
That's right.
500,000.
But when we present the projects, we'll show very clearly that the project is altogether is $10 million.
But do we need a separate vote for the use of those 500,000? So do we need?
No,
Any
because
other
it's
authorization to
no,
use
because
those
it's it is specifically for capital. It's in the capital
Okay.
reserve.
We can't use it to service debt?
No, because that's debt reserve. There's another funding for that.
But money's fungible, so wouldn't we just take the amount extra, move that into
I have to check, because certain funds, in order for you to use, you have to have voters approve. Certain funds. I'm not sure about that.
Are there any provisions in our borrowing that prevents us from early prepayment?
Yes, I think we cannot prepay probably up to 8 years. After 8 years, you can prepay.
And it's only fungible if we actually have a use for that money from the capital reserve fund.
No, it's fungible in terms of let's, take.
For any kind of
Yeah,
capital,
use it.
as long as you have capital.
Yeah, if you have,
Right.
capital projects.
We'll get
Right.
voter approval to move it. We'll get voter approval to move it. Didn't we do that with the stands way back 12 years ago?
We did that with the cafeteria a couple of
The
years ago.
stand that was, we used Excel fund. You remember we had
Oh,
the
is that what
special
they were,
funding?
Excel funds?
Yes. That was
They're in
the,
the capital reserve.
yes, because we didn't budget it in the capital reserve, and therefore we had to vote on that. The funding, actually, the fund was for the stand and also for the,
Didn't we do it for the cafeteria, John?
no, cafeteria is a different one. We're going to talk about it later in the budget presentation. Also with the boilers for Greeley and Bell.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thanks, John.
Sure.
Christine?
Can you have John put that on there? Pull the budget presentation off of that.
Is it
Okay, so
different?
before we begin the budget presentation, hey, John,
Is it different? You
Yeah.
changed? Okay.
can you please, I just want to do a couple updates while John is pulling that up. So, nope, we got to use the one off that stick. All right, so I just want to, coupled with what Warren had said, I want to begin by thanking the Greeley faculty, staff, and administration, as well as the Newcastle Police Department for all their assistance last week as we navigated the information that we learned from Amazon last Wednesday and tried to communicate that out to our Greeley families and then ultimately to the entire community. And while it's not appropriate for
Yeah, it showed.
me or any of us really to comment on Newcastle Police Department's investigation, I would like to share that Andrew Corsilia and I did speak with Amazon directly to one of their attorneys, and we expressed a number of concerns regarding the notification process and the practices that they employed during this entire situation. And I believe, based on our conversation, Andrew would agree with me that I think that they're going to consider making some major adjustments in how they handle when they receive information like this and school districts are involved. So, in addition to that, I also wanted to share that the Long-Term Safety Task Force will begin a meeting in February and have recommendations ready for the board in May or June. And as you remember, we needed to wait until Whole Foods opened up and then had a little bit more time working within the context of that space being used across the street before we could talk about how the measures that we put in place this year have or have not been affected. But in the meantime, Joe and John have been meeting with some contractors because we'd like to update our intercom systems at all of our buildings, starting with Greeley. So we'll probably be talking about that at our next Board of Education meeting because there's a couple things we need to do with our state contract in order to make that happen. So I wanted to share with you that the Strategic Planning Committee is ready to have our mid-year update meeting with Jonathan Costa, and we have that planned for February 26th. And then I will probably, I'll probably put this meeting as a meeting where Board of Education members can attend it. So that way, Vicki and Warren, if you would like to go as well, you can. And the reason I need to do that is because Holly is now on the board. So we'll have 3 board members who are no, Warren, you're on the meeting, so it would be Jeff and Vicki. Because Holly's now on the board, so I need to notice the meeting in a way that Warren, Jane, and Holly would be able to attend it. So I'll probably do something like that in the near future, but right now that meeting's planned for February 26th. The opening ceremony for the fitness center and Mind Body Studio is tentatively scheduled for February 27th at 3 o'clock. So in addition to inviting the Board of Education, we're hoping representatives from Twin Oaks, Sports Boosters, and the Chappaqua Schools Foundation will be able to attend since they are.
It's up and running now.
The dance studios, the Mind Body Studio is not ready yet.
Oh.
That's why we haven't had the official, you guys having a hard time opening?
A little bit.
Okay. All right, so, but that part's not open yet, so we're waiting for the whole complex to be opened in order for us to in order for us to do the opening ceremony. But the weight room is open, and we had over 200 kids in there after school yesterday. So it's really a fantastic facility, so we invite people to come and see it.
Doing some heavy lifting.
Heavy lifting. So on January 24th, we're meeting with our neighbors who surround Greeley. to talk with them about concerns regarding construction and field use, because I've been in contact with numerous members of our community that are in proximity to our high school, so we decided just to invite everyone to a big meeting. So we're sending letters out. If they didn't go out today, they'll be going out tomorrow. And then we also invited Holly and Jeff as members of the Facilities Committee to attend that. We're in the final stages of having our Zutter property approved. And I know John and the Facilities Committee have been working really hard to get this in front of the Planning Board, and we have 2 resolutions on the agenda tonight as a part of this process. The Tri-States team, as you know, came in December and did an analysis of our special ed programs around specific questions that we had asked them to look at, mostly focused on inclusion. And the team has provided us some feedback, so I asked if Heidi could join us at our January meeting and present that feedback to you, and then we'll put the report online for our entire community to see. So, okay, we're sorry about that, everybody. We're back.
We're back after a technical reason to stop. Now that we're all ready to have the budget preview.
All right, so John and I are here to do our first budget presentation for the 2019-2020 school year. So this is just an overview. This is not the actual budget. This is a precursor to the budget that we'll present to the board in more of its final form in March, and then it'll be up for adoption later on in the semester. So just so people understand how we plan for the budget, we begin in August, and we do a lot of conversing with the administrators in the first half of the year to determine what would be the most appropriate budget to present to this community based on our Board of Education strategic questions, which we'll talk about in a second. And then we spend the second half of the year presenting our budget in different components to the community and to the Board of Education until we finally present the budget for adoption that will ultimately be up for vote in May. So our 2 strategic questions that guide the entire process. The first deals with the fiscally responsible nature of our budget while maintaining and continuing our programs. And the second involves having an all-inclusive program for all of our students that helps support them in their academic thinking in a variety of different ways. As you know, through our process last year, we, with our strategic planning committee and through community input, we determined what skills and attributes we felt were most important to cultivate over the course of a student's experience here in our district. And using these skills and attributes that we identified as the most critical, we looked at our entire instructional program, and we identified our district priorities or our target areas that we've been working on over the course of this year. So our priority areas are using instructional spaces to amplify our learning, using instructional technology as a way to personalize our learning, and then our 3 core areas that we're looking at in terms of addressing some analysis that indicated there were some gaps in these particular areas were our K through 12 curricular program, our alignment, both vertically and horizontally, our K through 12 social emotional learning program in terms of our curriculum alignment of the way in which we work with our kids to cultivate those skills, and then our K through 12 assessment practices and how we assess our students, how we communicate how our students are performing to our parents, and then how we use those assessment tools to communicate across grade levels and then as kids progress from grade to grade. So in terms of our budgeting process, there are 4 major pillars that we use to guide our process. First is class size, the second is the program, the third is our infrastructure, and then the fourth is our contractual obligations. And then this slide just demonstrates there's a whole bunch of considerations that we make and that deal with input from our constituents, as well as some required mandates from the state and federal level, as well as our labor agreements that go into the budget development process that help guide our decision making, which ultimately leads to the budget that we present to the board for adoption. And then we have our operating standards that we've been using for a number of years, where we focus on our tradition of excellence in our schools, having a safe and supportive environment, continually improving and evolving our instructional program, innovation, maximizing our efficiencies, having a high-quality evaluation system for administrators and our teachers, improving our communication structures with our families, maintaining our class sizes, promoting and continuing our professional learning structures, having a teaming approach at the middle level, offering a wide variety of core courses and extracurricular activities for all of our kids, cross-disciplinary experiences, having facilities that are safe and cleaned and well-maintained, and then using our offices efficiently, and then reducing our overtime expenditures. John?
Okay, so we want to talk about what we know. Obviously when we put together the budget, there are a lot of components. So first of all, we talk about this list of all the items that we know about right now. So right now we're projecting a slight increase in enrollment, altogether an increase of 27 students. And at the elementary school level, we are projecting an increase of 58. And the middle school, we are projecting a decrease of 26 students. And at the high school, we're projecting a decrease of 5 students. So collectively, when you put everything together, we're projecting an increase of 27. I just want to mention that those 27, we're not projecting they will all be here in September, because we also, in here, we have a projection of 26 students from Conifer Development, which our understanding is they should be open by January 2020. So, but that's this coming school year. So we have put that in the projection. And
So John, was this using your crystal ball? Is this the 27, is that out of kindergarten or is that across, not kindergarten?
well, we don't know,
I know.
right? Because they haven't even started registration or the sign up. So what we did was that we put 2 per grade. And there are 13 grades, so altogether 26.
Okay.
So the schools that will impact will be Rolling Brook, Bell, and Greeley. It's a guessing game.
Okay,
So I'll just tell you, this time around, when we did the projection for 18-19, we were off, definitely off. The reason is because we were projecting that we will have 39 students for the Kubler building. At the end, we only have 16. And out of the 16, quite a few of them were in the district already. So they were just moving from one place to the other. And then also in the projection originally for 18-19, we also had Conifer, because in the very beginning when we were preparing the budget for the 18-19 budget, we were told that during this school year, Conifer will be open, but it's not going to happen. So we're quite way off in that. So contracts. So this is the year, and next year we have all 4 contracts in place. This is the bargaining units contracts. And right now we do know the ERS, the Employee Retirement System. This is the smaller group. We know the number is going to lower from 15% to 14.7%. So it's a 0.3 percentage point decrease. And then we also know the debt service. Earlier, I mentioned that we already borrowed the $42.5 million. So the debt service is known to us. And then also the assessment growth factor, we finally got a number. We are one of the several school districts that were the last to get their release. The reason is because Mount Pleasant town, I think Vicki is very aware of that, we're having some problem with the software. So all those schools didn't get numbers. But now we finally got it. And the assessment growth factor is 0.38%, which is a much lower number than the 18-19 budget, because 18-19 budget, the assessment growth was 1.34%. And this is the number that you add to the base of 2%. I'm assuming that the CPI is going to be 2%. We'll talk about it at the next page. And then the health insurance premium, we know already, and it's going to be 3%, which is a very favorable number.
what was it last year? It was higher, right?
Last year was 3.75.
Yeah.
But we have been keeping the number pretty low. If you want to go back, I can go back. 17, 18 was 8%. That was the not a norm year. And then prior to that was 2.5 for 16, 17, and then we had 2 years at 1.5, and then we have 4 years at 3%. So, fortunately, we belong to this health insurance consortium, and it's a group that, the board consists of business officials and one superintendent, and then also we have the union representative. But we really work together. We try to work on the plans itself, and every year we make adjustments.
Are you still on the board, John?
Yes. I'm actually the president now, so.
Congratulations.
Isn't that great?
And thank you for the 3%.
We push for that. Really, we try very hard. And
John, is there a way to project those expenses?
pretty much so, because when you have so many members, it really doesn't vary that much. Even when you have several serious cases, but you average out. That's why it's better to belong to a consortium. You have larger membership rather than self-insured. Like one of our neighboring districts ran into trouble because they were self-insured, and you just have to have a few serious cases, then you are pretty.
Okay, so we're not likely to get a big surprise.
No, I don't
One
think
year.
so.
You don't think
We
so?
are really planning
I mean,
out
okay.
several years down
What is the
road.
population of that, John? About
I think we have about 8,000.
8,000 people?
And what about the reserves for the consortium remain pretty steady?
Yes. Yes. We actually, other than the required reserve, we also have the excess reserve. So we are trying to draw down that reasonably every year. So equalization rates, we also have the equalization rates now. Newcastle is going to increase from 19.05% to 19.1%. And Mount Pleasant is going to decrease from 1.43% to 1.42%. So it will present a little problem because we had in years past we had, when they go the opposite direction, the rates will vary quite greatly between the two towns. But because the percentage is so small, there will be a discrepancy, but I don't think it's going to be that great. So this is a page that we don't know yet, and therefore we cannot present a budget, because we're missing the TRS piece. But we already know that TRS is going to drop from 10.62% to a number between 8.5 and 9.5%. So it's a good drop. But my understanding is the following years are going to go up because they're going to adjust the rate of return again. So that is going to have a major impact for the 2021 budget.
Do you know what the rate of return was for the fund in the last year, 2018?
I don't know the percentage. State aid, I think we're going to get a number within the next week or so. So right now we don't have the number. And that obviously is going to go into the revenue side, but also that will, the building aid is going to come into the calculation for the tax cap. And the CPI, right now for the first 11 months, the number is over 2% already. And the guidelines for tax cap calculation is that 2% of CPI, whichever is lower. So right now we are all projecting it's going to be 2%. So right now we don't know the tax cap number because of the previous two numbers. We don't have building aid and we don't have the CPI. Transportation cost, we don't know the number right now because the CPI is not going to be known until June, but we're going to pick a number to present the budget. I think right now we're trying to come up with probably either 2.5 or 2.25%. And then special education placements right now, it's going through the evaluation, so we don't have the number. Assessed tax valuation, we will not know that until much later, but in like year past, in mid-March, we'll take a number and come up with the best estimate. Okay, so this is the part, we talked about earlier when we were talking about the borrowing, the capital project. We said that here we will talk about it. So our commitment is that we will not increase the tax levy because of the borrowing of the $42.5 million. So these are the 5 areas that, we're going to use the funds. The first one is reduce the interfund transfer. So we're not going to add back the interfund transfer. We'll keep it at $100,000 so that $475,000 is permanently removed. And then and Christine talked about, we're going to the hearing, public hearing at the planning board on February 5th. So hopefully we'll have a favorable decision from the planning board, and then we can go to the next steps.
Do you see any issues with that?
At this point, I don't think so, because
Wait, so John, you're expecting a decision from them on that date?
I'm not sure when,
Oh, okay.
but I think you don't think so.
No, it's just a public hearing. And then
But they can take a vote afterwards. I don't know. Okay.
Oh, okay. I thought,
Sorry.
we had a clear end date. No, okay.
We'll see. We'll find out.
Okay, all right.
We've been
Fair
waiting
enough.
5 years. If you think they're going to take a vote at the end of this,
I don't know.
Lawrence says no.
I remember we went to a public hearing. Do you remember there was another public hearing for the property on the King Street? I thought they took a vote after that. I thought, but I'm not 100% sure.
Have we taken all of the steps that they've requested?
Yes.
Have we done everything on our
Yes.
side?
In fact, Randy met with them again today, and then he sent us an email. So we'll see. And then we will use the fund balance. For example, for the current year, we used fund balance. So if we need to, we'll use fund balance if we don't have the sale of the property. If we have the sale of property, then we'll use the sale of property to pay for it. And I thought about this piece, and for the sale of property, we really don't have a deadline of June 30th because of 2019. As long as we can sell it by June 30th, 2020, we can use that fund for the year. So when we present the budget on the revenue side, I'll probably say either the sale of property or fund balance to fund this piece. And also, we should expect increase of building aid because that will help reduce the burden of this debt. And then, obviously, we are expecting a drop in the debt service of $1.7 million starting 2023 and 24.
Okay, so we have 2 capital projects for your consideration, but these aren't new for us because we've been talking about them since last spring. The first is in Bell, where we would be renovating the service area for our students and taking down the wall that serves as a barrier between the cafeteria seating area and then where the kids would get food, so it would look more like how Greeley is structured here. And the second would be moving forward with the person traps for the K-8 buildings. So, John, did you want to talk about how we would finance
Yes,
these?
to the funding part. So the Bell Cafeteria, for the 18-19 budget, you have seen at the last line of the budget itself is the interfund transfer for capital. We already set aside $100,000. But now we're projecting that the $100,000 plus whatever we have in the reserve would not be sufficient. So when we propose the budget for 1920, we'll have the second part of, another 100,000, just the 100,000 for 1920, also will be dedicated to Bell. So from 2 years combined, we have $200,000. And then also right now, we close the year for lunch fund with about $192,000 in excess funds in the reserves. So we plan to put the proposition up for the voters to approve, to move the funds, to give us permission to move the funds from the lunch fund reserve into the capital fund. So altogether, we have close to $400,000 for that renovation.
We're going to move 100% of that? budget
I was
right?
going to say, what's the percentage of the lunch fund that you're moving over, the whole thing?
Yes. Using 400, close to 400,000. So 190-some thousand plus the 200,000. This would have no impact on the budget, but it will require the voters' approval. We have done this before, several years ago when we renovated Greeley cafeteria. So we'll try to to model that and do it, put the proposition up very similar to language.
And John, how much is usually left in the lunch fund annually? Is it a consistent amount?
All depends. Sometimes very good years we can get like $60,000-$70,000. The last time when we moved for lunch fund, through several years, we moved about $600,000.
Wow.
Okay,
it
so this
accumulated
could be-
that much.
Also,
This will be replenished pretty quickly.
Yes, in
is
3 or
the
4
point.
years.
Okay.
But we have to remember one thing is that by law, we have to keep those funds separate.
Yes.
The lunch fund cannot commingle with the general fund.
I know, yeah.
It has to be
Right.
used for cafeteria or for students' lunches.
Okay.
So by renovating a cafeteria is appropriate use.
Appropriate
Yes.
use of it, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so person traps. We talked about it, and I think at one board meeting, we talked about when you agreed to go forward with this, and right now we have an estimated cost of $1.35 million, but you also made it very clear to us that we would need to use fund balance to do it. So what we will have is that this will be in the budget on the line for the interfund transfer, but on the correspondence side for the revenue, we'll also bring 1.35, so we have no impact. However, this year, when we proposed the budget, when Christine proposed her budget, I just want to mention that the budget-to-budget increase is going to be quite high because we have the second tranche of the borrowing, that's about $1.8 million. That needs to increase the budget itself, even though we have the balance on the revenue side, whether it's the fund balance or building aid.
To pay, so we have the funds to pay it, but it's going to be a big number, you're saying?
For the budget to budget.
So you're
But-
saying the budget will be a big increase, but not the
not
tax
the
levy?
revenue, not on the tax levy side.
Right.
Just dollar for dollar, you're saying?
Right. And then, so that's about $1.8 million. And then also, we need to also increase the budget by 1.35 for the person trap. But even though we have a balance offset on the revenue side of 1.35. So just these two items alone will increase the budget by 3.1 or $3.2 million.
I think we'll have to make that very clear.
We
that,
need to, yes.
Because
Right.
that's very misleading. I mean, it's not misleading, it's the fact that the budget,
It was larger, but
It's
we have
going
the
up,
funds
yeah.
to
Right.
cover that, and it's
Yeah.
not related to a tax
We
levy.
need to do a very
Right.
good job in explaining that.
Okay, so we just did a brief slide that just shows what our recent budget increases have been since 2010, 2011. And then we we illustrated that in a different way.
And this is very small, so we have a summary sheet, the next one. So when you look at the last 8 budgets, so there are 7 increases. The average increase for the budget is 1.42 and the tax levy is 1.45. And then when you see the tax rate, Newcastle, the actual average increase during those 8 years, 7 increases, 1.58, and Mount Pleasant is 3.12.
And then, John, you want to talk about the
Sure.
Property tax
And,
cap.
the property tax cap, you have seen this many times, and it started in 2012-13. I just want to mention that, everyone has to come under the tax cap, otherwise you need to have a supermajority of the voters to approve. A supermajority is 60%. And the tax cap is the lesser of 2% of CPI. That's the base, and then you have subtraction and addition. So we will present the entire calculation when it's time. And then the star rebate, this coming year is the last year. Or if we come under the tax cap, our eligible taxpayers will be eligible for this rebate.
So then, in terms of our budgeting, our next steps is,
I
sorry, go ahead.
I saw an article about STAR, that you have to register for STAR now. I saw an article in one of the papers that came out from the state
Okay.
that Governor Cuomo wants people to have to register in order to get STAR.
We already did several years ago.
But there's like a new registration system
Okay.
now?
I
I
don't
think
know,
if you're
because several
currently
years ago,
registered,
several years ago, they asked everyone to re-register. Everyone was required.
and then we just take a look at that. So any of our, community members understand that they have to make sure that they have all their paperwork
Okay,
in.
so I checked with the assessor.
Okay.
So in terms of our next steps, we have to resolve all those areas that are still pending, finalize our personnel, identify any additional savings, and then on March 6th, we'll share a proposed budget with the Board of Education. But our budget will be under the tax cap that we present to you on that date. So then, is there any questions or anything that you want to make sure that we're thinking about as we plan forward in the budgeting process? And if you don't have anything now, if you want to email us as we begin the budget development presentation process, you can certainly let us know.
I just want to make sure that with use of fund balance for, keeping the tax, not affecting the tax cap as a result of the bond, and then use of that for the person traps, that we're going to maintain the 4% of the unallocated
That's our
as a
target.
reserve,
That is our
that it's
target.
going to remain at that level. Okay.
We're going to try.
So the only question, assuming that I'm pretty good at reading big bold letters, the district will recommend a budget under the tax cap. The only question now is how we allocate that money. Is that true? And we know the number is going to be within
Right.
2% of last year's.
Right, so we're thinking about a couple instructional practices that we may do differently next year to help support some of our areas related to the targets that we're working on. So that would be the bulk of what we'd be presenting to you as we move forward with our budget presentations by component.
I guess my one question is with regard to the sale of our property, if that gets held up, do we have a contingency plan on that in terms of funding, et cetera? Like, how will that affect anything in terms of servicing our debt?
I think, I think coming back to what Jeff was talking about earlier regarding whether or not we have approval, I think by the time when we present the superintendent's budget, we have a clearer picture. I'm not sure it's an absolute picture, but I think by February 5th, we'll have a better idea. Either they put up a roadblock, or they ask us to do more things, or we get approval. I don't know which one that's going to come out. So, but on the other hand, as I indicated, we do have from February 5th, let's say we get approval, I don't know, okay? But if we have gotten approval, from then until June 30th, 2020, we have that period to try to sell it. So the contingency plan is that if we didn't sell it,
Right.
then we use fund balance
Okay.
to fund that part.
Okay, so just in terms of our calendar, so March 6th, I'll be presenting to you our budget, and then we'll have our presentations by component for the month of March. And then on April 10th, hopefully, we'll have a budget that you feel comfortable adopting, then we'll have our hearing and our budget vote. Obviously, we still need to schedule our forums for our parents. So hopefully, we'll have an idea of when those will be at our next meeting.
But for parents and all the residents.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to thank John for helping put the presentation together. He always does such a great job. So, thanks, John. Okay.
We have other
All right, Lauren, that was it for my,
Okay. Thank you. We'd like to welcome public comment right now. In respect for each other's time, we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. Board members may be contacted via phone or email. And after the public comment period has been completed, board members may have a discussion among themselves regarding comments presented.
We have committee reports.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, maybe we don't have any.
Nope, I'm sorry. We'll go back to that. So committee reports.
Well, policy will do it within the
We'll do
agenda.
policy during approvals and ratifications.
Facilities has a report.
Okay.
Well, we can skip it either way. We already clarified that the planning board is meeting on February 5th to have a public hearing there's a chance to approve the project at that point. As John pointed out several times, we have about 15 months to sell it if we want. We're not obligated to sell it initially. I mean, one of our obligations actually as a fiduciary is to maximize the revenue from it. So we'll be, next step is to look at the best way to do that. And a couple other things, we had a couple of things dumped on us here, and so the Facilities Committee has been looking at a couple of things regarding the air conditioning. It is pretty clear that air conditioning in the entire district would cost us $20+ million, and we don't think that's feasible. So we looked at the Greeley cafeteria and the Bell 4th floor in terms of how we can alleviate some of the overheating problems there, which are more than just one-off with a really hot day. For the Bell 4th floor, we have not a proposal out, but we're waiting for some information, but one of the concepts we're looking at and we believe will help alleviate some of the problems will be a white roof. Right now we have a black tar roof, which just like it sounds, it traps a lot of heat. So we're looking into getting a white roof. We're gathering some, Joe and his staff and John and his staff are gathering some of the benefits of what it would be and how much actually, if we change it to, what it would cost, and then how much estimated savings, whether it's temperature-wise or that kind of thing, how much we would actually benefit by having a white roof.
I have a question about that. Has anyone looked into a roof garden? Is the roof, would the roof work out like that? Is it slanted? Or, I mean, a lot of cities have that.
Fourth floor Bell is flat, which is why
It's
it's a
flat.
candidate for the white roof. Otherwise,
Right.
because the rest of the building's actually slate roof.
It's
so
slate,
it wouldn't be a
right.
We
candidate.
actually looked at that at Seven Bridges a while back.
Right. I mean, a white roof is a good idea. I'm just thinking as an alternative as well, you could have a garden up there, which could, be part of a curriculum. I mean, we do have garden projects and at Bell, but that could be something additional.
Well,
We can check with, the experts, and then we can come back.
I'm just not real confident about putting up 5th and 6th and 7th or whatever 8th graders under a roof on the 4th floor, but
Well,
we'll look at
obviously
it.
you would put up fencing.
We'll certainly,
No.
all suggestions are welcome.
Yeah.
Look at them all.
Maybe it's not a good idea. I don't know.
Secondly, while we're on Bell, the Bell bathrooms, I believe, are they all up and running now?
No.
We're short one.
They're open.
They're all,
They're
I
all,
was in them.
okay.
Yeah, kids like them.
So after having to hold it for a little while, we're free to go.
But they're really just two. We renovated 7 bathrooms, and these are the last 2. And we ran into some problems, and these are the 2 next to the cafeteria. They are open after we open after the holidays.
Okay, good.
Excellent.
So they are open. Then the second area we focused on was the Greeley cafeteria. We're taking 2 immediate steps. One, we're going to put some air conditioning wall units into the actual cooking area, so that hopefully that'll alleviate the heat in there for the employees, but also will help prevent a lot of the heat from escaping out of that area by eliminating the heat in that area. We're certainly reducing the heat in that area. So that will go. And then 2, we're also just in terms of one of the things about the heat is the crowding. A lot of people at 98 or so degrees creates a lot of heat. So we already have, I guess, I don't know if it's an overflow tent, but we have a little tent in the courtyard where students will have lunch. We're going to get a similar tent and put up another one out there to try and reduce the number of people in the cafeteria at any one point, which we think will also alleviate some of the heat or some of the overheat.
So
As
we're
well as
buying a
when
second
the
tent.
library reopens.
Yeah, the library reopens too.
So we're buying a second tent
Yeah.
for that, right?
And it's important to note that all these buildings that are being built or constructed or rehabbed will have air conditioning in them, so that the library will have air conditioning. The L building will be have units, etc. So we think in the short run we're looking at that. We've certainly, I think Holly talked about last time, having a plan in each building, and each building is obviously working on that plan. I'm sure that'll include things like fans. Have I left anything out about the facilities committee? No,
Just-
other than the 2 meetings that Dr. Ackerman did the best.
And that we were looking into.
Oh, the ADA research.
The automatic
We've
doors.
got an email asking us to look at certain things, and certainly good ideas, and we don't have any definitive response at this point, but we are looking at them. And as Dr. Ackerman pointed out in her superintendent's report, we have 2 meetings coming up on January 24th, one at 6 p.m. right here in the Academic Commons for the neighbors who have expressed interest in finding out more about some of the construction we have here and about the timing of work being done, et cetera. One of the neighbors did come to our last facilities meeting, and I thought it was a very productive discussion with him. But he was really coming sort of representing his neighbors, and we felt it was just better. Why don't we just get all the neighbors together and help answer their questions, and maybe they have some ideas about how to alleviate any of their concerns. And the second meeting to follow will be across town at the 7 Bridges, which is to meet with the community, the nearby neighbors on Geary and Button Hook before the planning board meeting, so we can alleviate any questions or hopefully help any questions there. So either one, they don't have to come to the planning board meeting, or 2, they can be better informed when they get there. And that is all.
Were any of the schools looked at besides the Greeley Cafe and Bell 4th floor? Like West Orchard or?
Can I just, maybe I can, so one of the things that we had done as an administrative team is we sat down and we talked after the heat experience in September to identify what areas we thought were most critical. So these were the recommendations from the administrative team. It was the 4th floor of Bell and the cafeteria at Greeley. And we met with the principals just today to talk about these heat remediation plans. It's not something that is readily available or that the state even gives us guidance on, so we'll be making them up as we go, but we have some time. But we plan to have them in place before the end of May.
I'd like to say we're creating them as we go, not
Yep.
making them up.
Oh, creating them, yes. Creating them as we go to serve as a model for all other communities
Right.
throughout the state.
Okay. Any other committee reports, communication?
No, communication hasn't met. We'll probably have an update next time.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we can go to public comment. So if there's any comment by anyone in the audience?
Judy McGrath. I have a few comments about the budget. I just would like to remind you that the budget for this year was increased the largest amount in 10 years. So I'd like you to keep that in mind while you're thinking about the numbers for this coming year. On top of that, the student population went down by 122 students. So you're now looking at a decrease in peak population of almost 550 students from the peak. So also I'd like you to keep that in mind as you're thinking about numbers going forward. Regarding fund balance, I find it interesting how all of a sudden now it's very free to use fund balance. In the past, with all these budget discussions, using fund balance was a very stingy type of thing. And now we're using it to take care of some of the bond. We're using it now for person traps. I find it very interesting that there was a big push of a bond for security last year. When that didn't work out, all of a sudden magically in fund balance now we can pay for the person traps. I'd like to also remind you that part of the bond assumption was that you would make $7 million from the sale of the property. If you don't make $7 million from the sale of the property, then you're supposed to be using fund balance.
Properties.
Pardon me?
Properties.
Properties, that's correct, fund balance. In general, it just seems to me that the budget looks like it's getting padded, so you have more fund balance. Now, maybe that's not the case, but I find it very interesting now that fund balance is very freely, we're going to use that a lot. I would like to ask that the website, I've asked it several times, be fixed about finding out budget information. All budget information is listed under a heading called 2018-2019 budget. That's what the heading is. So it should be fixed to say budget, contract, legal, whatever. But I've asked this before and it doesn't get fixed. I'd also ask in the March presentation, because in the interest of transparency and because it does affect the cost of the budget, is that you identify the actual staff and faculty numbers. There always seems to be resistance in providing these numbers. These numbers have also gone down while the student population has gone down, so I think these should be, because they affect the costs. I also would like to see what the main changes were in the 4 contracts. This is public information. I think you should freely tell the public what were the basic changes in salary increase percentages, what were the changes in step increase percentages. Instead of having to go and figure it out, I think the board and the administration should provide that information to the public. What's the change of their percentage of contribution to healthcare, for example. Because those affect the cost of the budget, I think you should be open and give that information to the public. I also would ask that you put the budget calendar in the town newsletter so that everyone in the community knows what the budget calendar is. I do want to thank you for putting all the information together about the bond. Unfortunately, it was missing numbers. In the bond presentation that was everyone passed on, there are numbers in here. I know, I'm finished. Finally,
I'll give you another minute.
You want to finish, can you finish up in a minute, Judy?
yeah,
Yep, go ahead. Can we both give Judy an extra minute to finish up?
I'll move to give her an extra minute.
I'll second.
All in favor?
I'll give her an extra 2 minutes.
in this bond presentation, there were numbers listed next to every project. So I think in interest of transparency, as the projects are complete or wherever you are, the final numbers should be presented to the public. I also think that should be a separate tab or a separate section about bonds. You can just go to the website and click on it, and I have to click through several different things to find where the bond is. And again, I would also put that information in the town newsletter that if people are interested, that they can go to the website, and this is where they can find the information about the
I
bond.
wrote that down. Thanks, Judy. Any other comments?
Good evening, Jessica Cattering. I wanted to thank you for the update on the air conditioning work. I understand that a lot of the information, the conversations about air conditioning have come up as you are preparing the new budget for this school year, and that this really wasn't just something that you were looking to build into that. I am hoping that these changes will help in these two identified areas. However, I want to urge you to keep looking. I understand that not everything can be done in a single day or in a single school year. So, I'd ask you to continue looking at schools like West Orchard, Grafflin, and Roaring Brook. They are older schools. While they do have the global learning centers, that's really the only cool spot in those schools. We have a lot of children in those buildings. I'd also ask you to reconsider. We understand that air conditioning throughout the district is a very unrealistic dream at this point. But I'd like you to reconsider some form of air conditioning on the Bell 4th floor. I think the white roof will help, but Bell's 4th floor is incredibly hot. So if you can keep this conversation going and look into it with an eye towards the new budget, that would be really helpful. I think additional solutions could be found. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll close public comment. Is there any discussion from the board on anything we've heard? I think I took a bunch of notes and we'll take a look through that. So, okay. Thank you, everyone. Approvals and ratifications. I'd like a motion to accept 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 together.
I'll move to approve 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3.
These are board meetings minutes and special board meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
A second?
Any discussion?
Yeah, I couldn't understand your comment today. Was that part of these minutes, or was that part of the agenda? The two teachers?
No, that was part of the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
it
right.
was, it was a grant.
One more.
All in favor? Aye. Policy 2070. So what we're doing there is we're changing the duties of the district treasurer to make it a little more, have a little more clarity there. I think this is the second reading.
Yes.
We looked at that originally. Are there any more discussions regarding that? So can I have a motion to accept the change to policy 2070?
I so move.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
This isn't a change of policy, it's a new policy, right?
It's a change of
Oh, a
policy.
change of policy from 50 years ago. All right, never mind.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I just,
Even I wasn't here 50
for
years ago.
clarification, so Blanche, our current
62.
district treasurer, has retired at the end of this year, so we're going to move forward with hiring someone to replace her. This is a really important position in our district, so thank you for approving this, because that'll help provide clarity in the hiring process for John. So hopefully we'll have a candidate for your approval within the next 2 months.
It's only 20 years. It was revised in 1999. Item 3.5, Board of Education Principals and Organizations. Last time we had a big discussion, a detailed discussion regarding it. And that's, we were looking at
It's on the agenda.
Pardon me? Who's got? I'm trying to find my 2000, regarding protocols for principals and organization, principal, not principal, an organization regarding role of the board administration. I know we had a couple discussions there. We incorporated that in the red, but the one thing we would like to do is to have it as a,
This is not that one.
Yeah, I think you may have 3.5 and
Oh, I'm sorry.
3.6.
Right, this is the one,
Yeah, 3.5
right,
here, it's right here.
Right, I'm sorry.
this is the one where we clarify.
We clarified.
How to get an item on
board member gets an
agenda.
item
Right,
on the
right, I'm
agenda.
sorry.
That's okay.
No,
We
no,
have,
that's
we have
okay.
we have
There are a lot
basically
of them.
two basically the
Yeah.
There are a
same.
lot of
It
them.
was,
Right,
it's the procedure
Okay.
for
putting, right.
putting in
But I think
an
what
item
you're
on the
thinking
agenda.
of, and maybe we should talk about that when we talk about the protocols, but we are proposing to attach the protocols.
Well,
as-
let's
as
do
an
2000
exhibit.
first.
Well,
So,
we could do that.
Okay.
so each member of the board shall have the right to offer resolutions, discuss questions, vote on resolutions. Before it said the president shall have the right as other members of the board. So we took that out, so each member of the board can do that.
I think we should clarify the language.
We
The
just
language-
clarified the
clarified the
language for the
language.
second reading
Right.
on this.
So, I'm not sure if we had any additional discussion on it. I think we had hashed this out a lot
Yes.
last time.
Yes, we did. So I think we can move.
So, can I get a motion to move on 3.5 policy 2000? Do
I will so move.
I have a
Okay,
second?
I'll second. Oh, go
Any,
ahead.
no, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. 3.6, now we'll go. This is 3.6 is policy 2000, but we want to add an exhibit to it, just as we have regulations in our other policies. The idea is to have protocols within the policy as an exhibit, just so they don't get lost. So we have them in one specific place. And
Wait, which one are we doing? Are we doing, I'm sorry,
it's 3.6.
3.6, which is now
We're doing
says
3.6.
2000E.
2008.
oh, we renumbered.
Oh, that's listed as
We renumbered,
3.7
sorry,
in my
right.
book.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we're on Board and Superintendent Procedures and Protocols,
Protocols.
2000-E. This is not a policy, it's a protocol, but we've made it an exhibit so we could put it in the policy
In the
book
policy.
behind Policy 2000.
Yes.
Say
Okay?
that, say that again?
Board and Superintendent Procedures and Protocols. These are our protocols because the board by majority last meeting decided it should not be a policy, but we needed to place it somewhere. So by making it an exhibit, we would be able to place it within the policy book, but not have it be an actual policy. It is a
We
protocol.
need to place it somewhere.
Where would you like to place it? The idea
Like
is
to
we
put it
don't,
as a list and just have it in a file
Well,
somewhere.
I think that's, I had asked about
well,
that.
hold on, can I have a motion to approve item 3.6?
So moved.
Do I have a second? I will second. Do we have, now let's have discussion.
All right, I thought that we should have, I mean, there was maybe a majority consensus, but I disagreed. I thought that since we wanted the same procedures to change these protocols as a policy, and since we have the option of having it as a policy or as some standalone document that resides somewhere, that we should have it, pass it as a policy simply for organizational reasons and for procedural reasons, in the sense of having some sort of standards by which to change these protocols. You know, obviously we don't want to have them change willy-nilly. We want some sort of procedure to change them. And I would assume the procedure would be similar to the way we change policies, which is to have
It's included in the new
a
version.
rule of having 2 readings. So I thought that it was an issue of semantics.
Well, I think what,
And to make it easier to keep track, because things do get lost. John gave an example of how something got lost. So I
think
thought it should just be a policy to make it easy.
we did, well, it's actually not policy, my understanding
No,
is.
it is a protocol.
It's a protocol, but it's,
Yeah, but we were told by our attorneys that the protocol can be a policy.
well, yes,
These are
but
semantics.
Right.
And I think we should make a decision not based on semantics, but based on how we want this protocol to survive into the future.
well, that's what I thought. My understanding, I just would like then some clarity. My understanding was that these are our protocols, which a lot of districts have, but so that it's not a freestanding document where year to year people say, well, where do we keep the protocols, and they're not online, that it was my understanding that it was a suggestion through the policy committee and through our attorneys that we do have them as protocols, but they can be found with our policies because they are being attached as an exhibit. It is still a protocol and a way to proceed, but it's found there, so it's available, it can see it, but the way we change it is to change protocols, and we have a method for changing it in there, but it's still technically called a protocol. It's in our list of policies, so it can be easily found and referenced. That's my understanding.
that is
And that's what we're
Right,
trying to do.
so that was
Jay.
our way of getting around the fact that people were having problems.
So Jeff, my
Understanding that it could be a
understanding is
policy.
that it is not a policy, it's a protocol.
If it's not a
but
policy,
rather
why
than
isn't
have
it a policy book?
as an exhibit so it can be found. That to me
Why isn't it even
was,
attached to policy 2000? Just have it as an exhibit somewhere in the policy. It's not a policy, it's a
it is a protocol, but we can attach it so that we can find it easily on the website.
Just like we have regulations within
I
policy.
felt,
Have on a tab, it says protocols.
well,
A
I mean,
tab
it's very
where?
clear in this
A tab
policy,
to
or
what?
in this protocol, it has changed the protocol. It doesn't have to be attached to a policy, I have that on it, we all know, you have to have approval, same concept. 3 readings or 2 readings, and
well, no, we changed the way of doing it so that it is changed in terms of approval as a standalone document, but it's just for clarity and easy reference moving forward.
Is there-
That's my understanding.
Is there a downside to having it as an exhibit?
I'm comfortable with it as an exhibit versus calling it a separate policy. It's still a list of protocols. That's where we're housing it now for easy reference. And that, to me, makes a difference.
And we don't have another tab that says protocols, policies, just,
This is much ado about nothing. I mean, even if we have it as a policy, it's still protocols. If you don't want to have it as a policy, it's just protocols which are attached as an exhibit to a policy. So what is the objection and why, you
the
know?
objection is it's
What
not,
is
it
the-
doesn't belong in a policy book, it's a protocol. It's as simple as that. It's not even confusing you, it's not even, it is semantics, I guess. And it was a decision that we all made, and now,
It's a decision that we kept, though. To me, again, now I feel that there's a third difference. It's still a protocol. It's just where we're placing it so we can find it. We're not calling it a policy. If you look at the title of the document, it's protocols and procedures, and we're attaching it according to other board policies so you can find it.
Can I
But it's being
offer
separated out.
A different way of looking at it? If I'm a community member and I want to understand how things operate, it would be helpful if these 2 documents were close to each other.
Yes.
because then it provides clarity in two different ways.
Yeah.
I kind of disagree with that, and I'll tell you why. If
Go
I'm
ahead.
a community member and I'm looking for the protocols, I'm not going to know to go to Policy 2000.
Well, where will you
I'd like to
go?
have a separate tab that says protocols, and just have it right there. And it can't be any clearer to a community member if we just call it what it is, instead of burying it in the policy book where it doesn't belong. It's because may think it's there because I know my policies, but
Okay,
from an outside person's standpoint, looking for protocols, I don't know why intuitively they go look at Policy 2000.
Although it's right with Board of Education principles and organizations, so to me, it's easily found.
Okay, so the recommendation of the policy committee was to structure the protocols as part of our policy. They can still be protocols, but be part of our policy book, as a policy.
It's
We
not
can
a
do that.
policy, Vicki. You keep calling it a policy. It's not.
No,
It's not a policy. It's
exhibit
still a
within-
protocol. That's what the whole point
Right,
of
but
that
you
was.
can have the protocols be a policy.
Be in the policy book.
But you can
That's
also,
basically
but I'm
what it
saying
is.
something else.
We
You can
had
have the
originally thought we would have
protocols
protocols as a
be
policy. And
You
now
can
we're
have
saying
that.
we'll go to an exhibit.
So that,
instead
yeah,
of-
but
Do
that, I
we
just
have
want to
any
make
other exhibits in
clear,
this policy book?
I just want to make clear, yes, regulations all the time. I just want to make
Those are
clear,
exhibits or regulations?
I want to make clear that the recommendation of the policy committee
It says no
was
mention.
to have this as a policy. But the three other board members disagreed, and so that's fine, we will accept that disagreement. And this is our way to make sure that the protocols remain part of board
Protocols, but they're found
consciousness,
within
that don't
policy.
get lost
It was
along the
sort of- It was a
way.
compromise.
No, I understand. I was someone who was advocating that they should be protocols.
Right.
I didn't want it as a separate policy.
Correct.
I understand that for, ease of reference, like I said, I would like easier functionality for us and for the district
And that's what-
moving forward, so I'm fine with this.
That's why we have protocols,
And
we can do that.
I'm fine with calling it a protocol and tabbing it wherever it is in there to list it as protocol under there as an exhibit. I'm fine with that so that it stays sort of like memorialized and we can find it.
But it's less clear that way. We'll
I
do
think
it
we're
that
buried.
way, but it is
Can
buried
I make a
that way.
suggestion? Because I'm just looking at the website. Under the Board of Education, you have a tab that is called Policies and Regulations. What about you say Policy, Regulations, and Protocols?
What
And
about
then-
having two tabs?
And then you have a tab that is Protocol.
I'd be fine with that also.
I feel like we could put this on the website in a way that it's clear. We're just trying to move forward here.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
but
fine
this
with
is like-
either option like that.
We can't call it a regulation because it's not, so we're trying to call it something else so we can get it in here some way, so everyone feels comfortable with approving it, so we would
Get it
probably,
in here, so why, I don't understand the need to, if it's something separate, in terms of
I
why it
shouldn't
has to
think
be
it should be on the
jammed into policy
website.
book. Right, I think it should be highlighted on the website. I just don't think it should be jammed into the policy book, because
we have our policies, and underneath the policies, we have regulations. I mean, within the policy book, we can also have exhibits.
Okay, I mean, are we ready to
I think we're
vote
spinning
on
our
this?
wheels on this.
I don't understand the objection. I'm ready to vote on this.
I understand it, and I'm fine with doing it now and possibly changing it down the road if we decide we need to
go
do
ahead and
that.
jam it through. Let's go.
I don't think we're jamming anything through. I think we've had discussion. This is our third reading, second reading on
This
this.
is a third reading. That is
Third
the
reading,
opposite
and
of
every
jamming
other reading,
through.
we've said the same thing, and now it's been changed.
And is that what we do between readings? We change basically what the board is say. We come back and we present something else.
Would you like to not approve of this today? Are we not, I mean, if we're not done with the discussion, we can keep the discussion going.
We can examine
I'm
more
willing
ways
to
to
keep the
do this.
discussion going until you come to my point of view. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
I guess you or you're not. You're willing to just
Okay.
go through it.
I feel like we did exactly what the board asked us to do by majority, right? We did not make this a policy. Where we're having a problem is figuring out where this
Where it
goes.
goes. Where it goes.
So we tried to create a system up so it would have meaning and it was connected to something, right? So
Okay,
that's what we're
May
trying to
I
do.
propose that we, in addition to having this attached as an exhibit, that we also put it under a separate tab?
That's fine.
That way
We
we'll
can
do
do that.
it both ways, okay?
Mhm.
And it won't be buried. Because, I also think this is an imperfect way of keeping the record of the protocols. So we can put it under a separate tab and keep it as an exhibit.
Yes.
I'm fine with
That's
that.
awesome.
Could there potentially be other policies, though, that this should be an exhibit to, since it
We don't have any.
will, right.
It's an exhibit to board procedures, so it makes
Procedure.
sense.
But
to
it
that.
also
could be
encompasses the
referenced.
superintendent. We may want to
Oh.
reference it.
We
in
reference a lot of
places.
policies to
It
other
can
policies.
be, it could be cross-referenced, that's what
You can
happens.
cross-reference it.
If the home for the protocols is not going to be a standalone and it's going to be attachments or exhibits, I think we would want to make sure that it's referenced and attached to all of the relevant.
Well, it doesn't have to be
Policy.
attached. What generally happens is we cross-reference
Right.
when something is relevant.
I just think
to
we should
another
take a
policy.
deep, we should take a deep look at, or the policy committee, if they could, take
Okay.
a look at that.
This is what I'm going to do. If you approve this, I'm going to change the header to policies, regulations, and protocols for 2000 governance. And then I'm going to put this as a standalone within there, and then I'll send you a link when it's ready, and you can look at it and see if you're comfortable with it. And if you're not comfortable with it, just let Warren know, and then Warren and I will try to figure it out.
Okay.
But I would still like to see it as an exhibit.
Yeah, that's how I'll write it.
So
Is that, Warren, do you think
I,
that's do you
we can
still
do
agree
that.
with
We can move forward with that and come back again. There's no problem. So I guess we have to table this discussion then?
No, I mean, Christine
We
has
can
a,
approve the-
has a proposal.
Can we approve the
Yeah,
content
The
of
substance of the protocols
I don't
aren't
think,
going to change, it's
Yeah.
just the way we're going to list it on the website. So I think we can vote on the protocols themselves.
right, so then we'll figure
So
out
would
how to represent it in a way that makes sense based on this discussion on the website, and then when it's ready, we'll send it to everybody, and then we could tweak it if that's.
Right, but I think we
people
can
want.
approve the content of the
Okay.
protocols.
So do I have a motion to, well, we have a motion on the table. Yeah, sorry. So can we vote on the, I guess, the amended discussion that we will approve the content of 2000E, and the administration will come back and work with us on determining where it will reside on a website?
Can I just ask a couple of questions? This is not a policy. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes, we agree.
Okay. So the exhibit is a protocol. So the exhibit is going to refer to a separate something where the protocol is.
What would, I just don't
Okay.
understand,
I'm okay with you-
what would
with your
kill
proposal.
people if this is a policy? I
Vicki,
mean, just
we've
don't
made that
understand
decision
it.
already, though. That was a
But this is
decision that
the-
was made.
Maybe you
It's
don't understand
fine,
it, but-
It's such
But
a,
we
appreciate
made
your
that
acceptance.
decision, we're
We
trying to
can
move
it's such a
forward
red
with.
herring that I'm sorry we spent all this time on it.
Well,
I'm sorry we spent all this time on it as well.
I think we've gotten some things done, so we have protocol.
I'm happy with the content of it
We have protocols.
and-
So I think what
right.
we're going to vote on now is the content of the protocols, and then we will determine, we'll work with the administration to determine how people in the community will find the protocols,
I think that's fine.
and how they won't get buried and lost.
Okay.
Right, so
So-
what I'm hearing you say is we're going to approve it as presented.
And
And then I'll figure out with you the placement of it.
the placement of it, and how to access that
Yes.
placement, and how to
Yep.
cross-reference it 15 ways.
Okay. So
Okay.
we have to vote on that.
So can we have a vote on accepting 3.6, the content as is? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, passed. Okay,
Moving along.
3.7, Policy 1005. This was public participation at meetings. We had a lot of discussion on this. Again, I think we agreed to that we would go 3 minutes per speaker, timed by the district clerk. And this was the new, that we would extend the individual's time by XX minutes. Or, right, to have 1 minute to extend by 1 minute for the purpose of concluding the comments. The idea there is that if we go longer for every presenter, I mean, tonight we had 2 presenters, it was an issue. We have 30 presenters, that could lead to a lot of time. We don't want to minimize people's time, but we want people to be able to speak succinctly, and then you give them an extra minute so they'll wrap up, so like, I have 2 more things to say.
So are we in discussion on this?
Do I have a motion? I'm sorry, I was just trying to explain. So,
Sorry.
do I have can I have a motion to accept 3.7?
I move that.
I'll second that. Now discussion. I'm sorry, I should have.
No, I just wanted to check if it was.
Go ahead.
So that we can move to extend, do we need to put anything about that it has to be voted on and passed by a majority, or is it just sufficient the way it's written?
The board may move, so that would be,
I think it's implied.
it's implied that we would.
Okay.
But we'd move and then have to take a vote on that.
Right, we move and have to take a vote.
If we move properly, we can say I move to vote or move to extend the next meeting.
So,
fine.
the idea is keep moving along, give people their say. Any other discussion?
I'd just like to say that while I will vote yes on this, I would favor a longer time period of up to a total of 5 minutes, but
Okay.
All in favor of the change proposal, or change policy as written? Aye. Go
So,
ahead.
I'm sorry, I thought that you were actually proposing to change it to 2.
no, I'm saying
okay.
I'm not going to litigate something that we litigated already. I was a loser there, and I
Okay.
accept that.
Okay.
So all in favor?
Aye.
I present first of all, I'm so happy we passed those policies. Just acknowledge that. Woo, a lot of work, but
Okay.
it's great. Okay, so I recommend 4.1 instructional as presented.
I move we accept the superintendent's recommendation of item 4.1.
Any discussion?
We need a second.
We have a second,
I'll
sorry.
second.
I would just like to share that we have a number of retirements in
I
our
know.
agenda, and we'll honor all of our retirees at our meeting in June. So we
Sad
look
to
forward
lose a lot of Seven Bridges
Yeah,
teachers that
look
have been
forward
there
to
for a
supporting
long
them.
time. And I
Okay.
look forward to celebrating them when they retire.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I recommend 4.2 non-instructional as presented.
Also move.
Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Do I have a motion for 5.1 CSC summaries reported to the board on January 9th, 2019?
I will move 5.1, CSC summaries.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Item 5.2, the Board of Education approves the following individuals as subcommittee chairpersons of the Committee on Special Education for the remainder of the 2018-2019 school year. These individuals may assume the role of subcommittee chairperson for one or more CSE annual review meetings. I will move 5.2. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 5.3, this is approves agreement with Health and Welfare Services with Dobbs Ferry Union Free School District for 5 students at a $1,149.35 per student, effective this school year, September 1, 2018 to June 30, 2019. Authorizes the board president, superintendent, and district clerk to execute this agreement. Do I have a motion for 5.3?
I'll move 5.3.
I'll
Second.
Go ahead. Vicki?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 5.4, be resolved, the Board of Education approves consent judgment to Chappaqua Arcade LLC for assessment years 2011 through 2017, half year of 2017, in the amount of $61,423.72.
I'm at 5.4.
Do I have a second on 5.4?
Sure.
Any discussion?
They got a nice amount of money back.
Where is this property?
But originally, their total claim was $285,000.
Okay. I looked this up on Google Maps because I was determined to find out what this place was. I think it's the eye
26
doctor
Cirque, really.
in town.
It used to be an arcade, or
Right.
it used to be the
But
movie.
it's in
video.
care of an eye doctor. It's one of the offices right around there. But I was confused by the name and arcade, but it is an
Arcade,
office
right.
space, correct?
That's right.
okay.
Guess the business is not so great.
All in favor?
Or maybe it's better.
5.5, be resolved, the Board of Education accepts a gift from Friends of Greeley Theater Incorporated to Chappaqua Central School District for the Horace Greeley Theater Department in the amount of $3,000 for the purchase of lumber to be used in conjunction with February 7th, 8th, and 9th, 2019 production of Noises Off, as well as for future Greeley Theater productions. Do I have a motion for 5.5?
I'll move 5.5.
Do I have a second?
It's a lot of lumber.
I'll second. Any discussion?
That's a lot of lumber.
I guess, I know Joe's not here, or Jonathan Geller's not here, but thank you for the generous gift. But again, what do we do with, I think the lumber goes out after the production's done, and what happens with this, do we know, John?
Most of them will go out, but, certain pieces they can reuse.
Right, certain things they build, they can reuse for other sets. Yeah.
Because it
Most
seems
of it
like,
goes in a dumpster.
every production we get like a gift for more lumber.
The reality is that also we don't have a place to store the lumber. If you start storing sets, then you need a very large space.
Is this typical of other school districts? Do their theater programs get all this lumber? I mean, I guess they're just building, this is just a typical thing that has to happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It seems to me too that when we use the term lumber, that it's going to be used for all sorts of set decoration, design, and really to support the entire production.
Like screws and nails and things like that. Okay. All right.
Well, thank you. It's a lot of lumber.
All in favor?
Aye.
5.6, be resolved, the Board of Education approves the Chappaqua School Foundation Instagrant for pedometers for kids in the amount of $866.74 submitted by Douglas Grafflin Elementary School first grade teacher Marissa Boniello.
I will move item 5.6.
Second.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yes, actually, this is one that I had sent the comment on. It's actually on behalf of two teachers that applied, Ryan Spillane as well as Marissa Boniello.
Right.
And I just would like to make sure that we recognize
Yes.
both.
Great.
Agreed.
Thank you. All in favor?
Oh, that makes sense. Aye.
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 5.7, be resolved, the Board of Education approves the Chappaqua School Foundation Instagrant gift for the square root of math anxiety. I have one of them. In the amount of $224.41 submitted by the Robert E. Bell School teacher Megan Barnes.
I will also move item 5.7.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I just want to thank the Chappaqua School Foundation for these two gifts as liaison. I know they work very hard with the teachers to work out these grants, and a lot of work goes into it. So we just want to say thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
5.8, be it resolved, the Board of Education approves a gift from the Robert E. Bell, from the Robert E. Bell School PTA in the amount of $499.99 for the purchase of a table tennis table.
I will move 5.8.
I'll second that one.
Okay, any discussion?
Thank you, PTA.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Does this include paddles and balls and stuff?
The PTA, who also works with the teachers and administration to work out these gifts.
It's a
So
higher end table than we initially wanted, so it just came right under $500.
that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
5.9, be resolved, the Board of Education approve an Asset Works Service Provider Agreement effective December 1st, 2018 through November 30th, 2019, authorizes Board President to execute this agreement. I will move 5.9. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5.10, be resolved, the Board of Education approves a bid award recommendation, CCSD RFP 2018-2, Audio Visual Design Services, Global Learning Center, and L Building Floor 2 at Horace Greeley High School. Recommended award to Color Tone Audio Visual in the amount of $37,800 for the 2018-29 school year.
I move 5.10.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5.11, be resolved, the Board of Education approves award recommendation B, 2018-18 mirrors, materials and installation for West Greeley High School Mind and Body Studio. Recommended award to Glassless Mirror Manufacturers, Inc., light mirror in the amount of $22,895.
I will move 5.11.
I will second 5.11. Any discussion?
It's a lot of mirrors.
So is this, Christina, is this part of the, I know we had some, we received some money for the building of the weight room, so to speak.
Yeah.
Is this included in that?
Yes.
Or- So this is just another,
Yeah, we had to do the new weight room first, and now we're focused on the Mind Body Studio because we're getting all the equipment out of there. So that's the second piece of the project.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
5.12, whereas the roof at Bell Middle School is leaking in several places, notably the gymnasium and library. Basically, this is, we ensure the health and safety of students. We need to fix the roof. So, right, so this is,
It's emergency
it's
resolution.
emergency resolution,
To allow them to move forward.
right? So, do I have a motion to accept 5.12 to fix the roof at?
I move we accept item 5.12.
A second.
Any discussion?
I'd just like to apologize for my confusion.
Do we know what this is going to cost, John?
We don't know, that's why we need this emergency, because we
Right, you
cannot
have to
bid
go
it
ahead
out.
to figure
We
it
really
out.
need to get someone to come in.
John, did this
ASAP.
happen suddenly? I mean, obviously, we would have addressed it the moment we noticed it. I mean, did they know the cause? Is it something, I know we have a good roof maintenance plan.
I know that the board also asked KG&D to write a memo regarding this, I mean, because we discussed this back in November. They're going to propose, have a long-term plan proposed, right? This is the short fix. The long-term plan is going to be much more extensive.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I did have a chance to go with Joe Gramando over on a tour and see where a lot of the leaks were and the damage.
Right.
And
No. It was the damage caused by something in particular?
The way he was explaining it to me that I understood, it's in part the way the building is actually designed,
Right,
that
there's a design flaw.
the way that the water goes through a gutter instead of being an external gutter, it actually comes into the building and flows through, which is allowing the pipes or the tubes to basically have too many temperature changes, which is causing them to leak sooner. But that was basically how I understood it from him. But there were some other things that were beyond my ability to understand.
Right. Oh, okay, yes, no, I understand. Also, I'm wondering how old that system is. How long has that been in existence?
Well, the building has
What-
been
what
open
Holly
only
just
just 2003.
Okay, so this system of,
About-
water collection has been going on for,
So altogether, it's
15
probably
years.
16, 17 years.
right.
Because we opened in 2003, but, the building started constructing, certain parts were finished earlier,
And
soon.
he said this wasn't, if I understood, this wasn't the first time. This is just worse, a worsening of the situation.
Okay.
So is this, I guess, a standard design? Or is this some kind of special design that they use for this building?
I think what Holly was describing is really in the gym itself, but right now.
It was in
so-
the
so-
library as well.
Yes, sort of library, and then also the commons, the second upper commons.
But I guess the question is this type of architecture standard or
And I don't
normal?
know. I don't know.
So are we
We're-
addressing the causes
We
of
we are
this?
going to get a report probably by the end of this week.
Okay.
So
So
I
we're
just-
we're doing the quick fix, but I just want to know if, we have, after we get the report, are we looking to address the
The long
structural
term, yes.
cause
Mhm.
of
Yes.
this
Yes.
problem? Okay.
I just want to remind you, and it's been about 2 months, so I can understand, that we talked about this
Right.
in November, and we were concerned that there was a design flaw, and now we're going to have the company that came in, designed it, fix the problem. So that's why KD&G we required them to write a memo to you, exactly what was happening here, so you'd have an understanding of what went wrong and what they now need to do to fix it. But in the meantime, this became progressively worse. So now we're in this situation where they're going to write you the memo, but we have to do something immediately because we're starting to impact the floor.
Okay.
So,
I would also remind everybody that we did have leaks in the library previously. They were pretty material.
And then also we have leaks in the gym as well.
Yeah. We had convenience problems in the gym as well.
Okay, so, any other discussion? All in favor of 5.2?
1, 2. Yes.
5.12.
Aye.
Okay, 5.13, these are long, but I'll read them. These 5.13 and 5.14 are regarding the sale of the, which John spoke about before.
The Zauder piece.
Of the Zauder property. So the first is more regarding secret and our ability to act. Whereas the Board of Education, Chappaqua Central School District Board has under consideration the sale of certain real property consisting of approximately 20.3 acres of unimproved wooded real property located between Button Hook Road and Gary Drive in the town of Newcastle, County of Westchester, State of New York, the proposed action, and whereas the board proposes to proceed with the proposed action and wishes to take all actions necessary in connection therewith in order to comply with State Environmental Quality Review Act, the SECRA, including designating itself as lead agency for the purpose of determining the environmental impact of the proposed action. And whereas the board believes the proposed action is an unlisted action requiring the completion of, at a minimum, a short environmental assessment form, EAF. And whereas Jerry Barrett, RLA, prepared Part 1 of the long EAF in connection with the proposed subdivision of this unimproved property in 2016, which has been provided to the board, and whereas the board is the only agency with jurisdiction by law to approve or directly undertake this action, therefore, coordinated review of the action under SECRA is neither required nor necessary. And whereas the proposed action in the board acting on a resolution to sell unimproved real property will not have a significant adverse effect on the environment. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Chappaqua Central School District hereby designates itself as a lead agency for the proposed action, and be it further resolved that the board, after having reviewed the proposed action and Part 1 of the long EAF, hereby determines that such proposed action will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment and makes a negative declaration for the purpose of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, and no further action is needed. And be it further resolved, the board hereby authorizes Assistant Superintendent for Business John Chow to execute the long environmental asset form on behalf of the board. The contact person for the Chappaqua Central District School District is John Chow, Assistant Superintendent of Business for Business. I will move 5.13. Do I have a second?
Second. Oh, Holly can second.
Any discussion? John, do you have anything? We're good?
Yes. it's a good
Okay.
thing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now 5.14 that goes along with this. Whereas the Chappaqua Central School District purchased approximately 20.3 acres of wooded, unimproved real property located between Button Hook Road and Gary Drive in the town of Newcastle, County of Westchester, State of New York in 1973, and whereas such property has no use or value to the school district for school district purposes, and whereas the Board of Education of the Chappaqua Central School District wishes to sell such unimproved real property, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Chappaqua Central School District declares that such 20.3 acres of wooded, unimproved property, real property, located between Button Hook Road and Gary Drive, as more particularly described in a deed annexed to this resolution and made a part hereof, is of no use or value to the school district. And be it further resolved that pursuant to Section 1804-6C of the New York State Education Law, the Board of Education is hereby authorized to sell such 20.3 acres of unimproved real property without voter approval for fair market and upon such terms and conditions may be determined by the Board of Education in the best interests of the school district, subject, however, to permissive referendum in accordance with such law, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent of schools and assistant superintendent for business to advertise such property for sale in accordance with conditions of sale to be prepared by the school district's attorney. I will move 5.14. Do you have a second?
Sure. Second.
Any discussion? So this allows us to sell our property, which we've been working to do. All in favor?
Aye.
5.15, be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby authorizes the firm of Shaw, Pearlson, May, and Lambert LLP to provide legal representation to the school district in a CPLR, Article 78 CPLR proceeding in a matter of Bailison et al. Versus the Board of Education of the Chappaqua Central School District et al., index number 70427/2018, in accordance with the provisions of 2018-2019 retainer agreement with the law firm.
I'll move 5.15.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5.16, very similar. Be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby authorizes the law firm Shaw, Pearlson, May, and Lambert LLP to provide legal representation to the school district in a CPLR Article 78 proceeding in the manner of Patcher et al. Versus the Chappaqua Central School District, index 70408/2018, in accordance with provisions of the 2018-2019 retainer agreement with the law firm. I will move 5.16. Do I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
5.17, be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby approves the terms of the supplemental memorandum of agreement with the Chappaqua Congress of Teachers, CCT, bargaining unit regarding certain contractual rate increases in Articles 24 and 31 and date changes in Article 26. As presented to the Board at this meeting, a copy of the SMOA shall be incorporated by reference within the meetings of this minute. I will move 5.17.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Facilities. I would like if someone could move to acknowledge the change orders by the superintendent.
I move we acknowledge the item 6.1, the change order approved by the superintendent previously.
I'll
Correct.
second.
Any discussion? All in favor? I guess we're acknowledging. All in favor of the acknowledgement? Aye.
I just had one thing for my facilities report. I saw a tweet yesterday, that K-110 is now open. So
Yeah,
I wanted to
Andrew held a faculty meeting in there yesterday.
Say, as part of the bonds, I think it's important since it's part of the bond project and it's been an ongoing problem in this district for as long as I can remember.
If you have a chance, I invite everyone to take a look. It's very impressive.
Love to. That sounds great.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Can we take items 7.1 through 7.10 together? We have a motion to accept the
I move we accept 7, all 7 financials.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Notice of future meetings.
Can I ask one question prior to that? I've been getting a lot of questions from the community about the calendar for next year, specifically with Christmas Day and New Year's Day falling on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we'll get 2 weeks off, so when are we going to have the calendar discussion? Typically right around now.
Last
And
year
you
we
know
did
the
it.
answer to that question.
Yes, I do. Last year we did it at the second meeting in January, so we'll probably have the discussion around the calendar at that meeting.
Do we anticipate it being 2 weeks?
Right now, in the draft, there is a 2-week vacation period within there. But I have to check a couple things before I finalize it.
Okay, I won't tell
Yeah.
anyone.
Well, we said it publicly, but it's not finalized yet, but that's what it's looking like at this time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Can I just, for the,
Yes,
We
we
didn't
did
vote?
vote on the,
All in favor of financials 7, taking them all together?
we did,
We did vote.
We voted, I thought.
All right, I'll vote again. Yes.
All in favor? Aye.
aye.
I thought we voted, but
for the future meetings, I just want to remind the board you're invited before the 23rd meeting to the administrative retreat. I had sent you an email. That starts, I believe, at 4 o'clock. Okay?
thank you. Notice of future meetings, Wednesday, January 23rd, 2019, 7:30 PM, Roaring Brook School presentation, Horace Greeley High School Academic Commons right here. And then Wednesday, February 13th, 2019, 7:30 PM, Robert E. Bell School presentation right here at the Horace Greeley Commons. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at,
9:25.
what is it, 9:25?
I will move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Thank you
Have
all.
a nice evening, everyone. Thank you.